We have a voicemail number. That number is 2192 David P. Here's a very important question about non-voters. Non-voters. Take a listen to this.
Hey, David. I was wondering, with all the Democratic candidates out right now, if your personal candidate doesn't get picked, is there a certain number of people that will just refuse to vote for the Democrat because their candidate isn't the nominee? Or is everyone just going to vote for the Democrat? Because I heard there was a lot of issues last year where there were a lot of people who were Bernie supporters who were spurred that he didn't get the nomination and decided not to vote for Hillary Clinton.
So listen, I don't know the answer to that, but it's something I am afraid of. And it is so important right now that we take step one in starting to repair this country. And it is only step one, which is the removal of Donald Trump. Earlier on today's program and on other programs, I've talked extensively about the damage done by Trump will extend far beyond his presidency. The Republican Party isn't fixed when Trump leaves because the Republican Party is what allowed Trump to become their nominee and ultimately to become the president. So when Trump leaves, the Republican Party is still an absolutely abortive attempt at being a reasonable political party. So we need to remove Trump as step one. And unfortunately, it is conceivable that if someone really likes one candidate and that candidate is not the nominee, that some of them will stay home, or some might vote for Trump, although I hope it's a very small number, as close to zero as possible. Some may go third party, some may write in. I think that that's extremely problematic. Now, if you're in a truly safe state, I understand that your calculation may be different. Strictly speaking, I think that the right way to approach this is assume the election could be close no matter where you're voting. I get that in Massachusetts, the Democrat is going to defeat Donald Trump. And so if I vote third party or write someone in or don't vote, it's not going to make a difference. But the problem with that logic is if everyone who has that thought occur to them takes the action, that does change things. So I think it's logically fallacious to fall into that lack of thinking. We should all just vote as if the election did depend on our vote. In terms of whether people might just stay home because their candidate isn't there, my hope is that people who don't like Donald Trump would realize that any of the Democratic options right now is better than Trump and that thus they would vote. So I could understand people who are in the Bernie Warren wing, if Joe Biden is the nominee, saying, I'm not voting for Biden. Biden said, as we covered today, that, marijuana is a gateway drug. Biden's not for serious reform to the health insurance system. I'm not going to vote for him. Well, Trump is worse. And I think at this point we have seen that the let Trump win to break it all down and then we'll rebuild it mentality. I mean, it just hasn't worked. It didn't play out. It's not surprising that it didn't play out that way. I think that is very dangerous thinking. So we'll have time to talk more about this. I do believe that we need to start seriously talking about the reality that everybody should participate. If turnout favors them, they win easily, even with low Trump approval, because of the electoral college system that we have, particularly if our side's turnout is depressed in those key swing and battleground states. So I am very worried about it. I don't want to be hyperbolic or alarmist, but mathematically, in those states where it's close, some Democrats saying, I'm not voting because my guy or gal is not the nominee, could turn some states for Trump, and it could turn the election for Trump. We don't want to let that happen. We'll talk about it more. We have a great bonus show for you today. We will talk about cheating allegations against the Houston Astros that have the baseball world demanding punishment. And we're going to talk about cheating in sports more generally. MIT's AI scores the egotism of drivers to try to make autonomous vehicles more assertive if they assess that drivers around them are driving in a particular way. It's very interesting, and it relates to some of the complex math that goes into programming autonomous vehicles. And number three, we've talked about the Starbucks open bathroom policy in the context of race-based discrimination that we've seen at some Starbucks stores. In the last couple of years, there have been some stories about that. There's a very interesting new study which says that on the one hand, the open bathroom policy does some good things for Starbucks. On the other hand, that it seems to be hurting foot traffic. And as many of you know, I've not been to a Starbucks for 15 years. So hopefully producer Pat will be able to inform me on exactly what it is that is going on at Starbucks these days. All of those stories and more on today's bonus show. Become a member at joinpakman.com to get instant access, or become a patron at patreon.com/David Pakman Show at the $5 or greater level. That will also give you access to the bonus show.